I just recorded like 10 minutes of a video and I didn't even hit record, so I'm doing this all over again. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Fantasy Theory. How is everybody doing today? I know this is a little different. I have my face cam on today. I usually have my other setup with my computer. I have, like the DSLR camera or whatever. There's usually better quality. Right now I'm using the Logitech Brio, so excuse me if there's any issues with it, or if it's like okay quality. I'm getting my computer fixed right now, so I couldn't use that. I didn't want to move everything, so I'm using my Logitech Brio. But how's everybody doing today? So you guys made it very known to me that I shouldn't have made a Dune Part 2 video after not seeing Dune Part 1. I made a video the other day titled, it was something like Dune Part 2 reviews are in, wow, or something like that. Because the critic reviews on them said that this movie was perfect. This movie was better than Sliced Bread. This movie was Empire Strikes Back level sequels. So I thought, hey, let's make a video. But you guys let me know. I should have seen the first one. And you know what? After thinking about it, you're right. I should have seen the first one. So what did I do last night? I grabbed my popcorn, I grabbed the pillow, I sat down and I watched Dune Part 1. And I have some emotions I want to go off of, some things that I want to talk about. And I liked most of it, but there were some things I didn't like, but for the majority of it, I did like. So before we jump in, leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you thought of Dune Part 1 if you saw it, or if you're going to see it. Let me know if you're going to see Dune Part 2. I know I am after seeing Dune Part 1, and especially after reviews. I'm curious to see what fans think, if there's anything different from the critics. But when I did the video about the review on like critics and fans from the last one, not that one, but it seemed like critics and fans kind of had the same idea of what Dune Part 1 was. So hopefully they think the same thing. I want the movie to do good. I would love to be invested in the Dune franchise. But leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe. Let's jump into the video. So I'm going off like an unconventional video here that I'm just going to be shooting the shit on this. I have a few things that I want to go off of that I liked, what I wrote down during the movie. So, this isn't like a script read one. This is just me kind of shooting the shit. Like I said, I don't know everybody's characters' names. I have a list pulled up of characters' names. I'm going to be referring to the characters as the actors or their names. It's going to go back and forth. So forgive me on anything like that. I'm new to this. I am new to this. So, cut me some slack. I literally saw the movie last night. You guys yelled at me, and you should have, because I should have watched the movie before going into this. I made some dumb comments like, I guess Timothée Chalamet's character is important. The answer to that is yes, he is important, but let's go into this. So there is a ton of lore on this franchise. I mean, I went into this blind. I didn't even know that there was books on this. I didn't know there was other movies. I found out there was other books and movies when I looked up, is Dune inspired by Star Wars? Because I literally thought Dune was like created a couple years ago. Turns out there's books on it. There's movies with Nicolas Cage, who I thought was in this movie. And I found out through looking up who's Nicolas Cage's character, where I found out he's the main character. And the person I thought was Nicolas Cage was actually Javier Bardem, whose character I really like. So there's a ton of lore. A lot of things that, you could really get lost and not really understand if, you didn't have any prior knowledge. I definitely looked up some videos at the end to figure out some things. So, my knowledge is a little better than just watching the movie. You're definitely going to have to do some deep diving after this if you're going into this blind. If you know things from the books and from the old movies, you may have a better time doing this, but I went into this blind, like I said, so some shit didn't really make sense to me. The characters, though, were interesting. Again, Timothée Chalamet's character, most interesting, but they fleshed him out the most, and, he is kind of, or if not, is the main character if you don't include Zendaya. Now, saying that I went into this blind, there was a lot of things that I knew from the Part 2 trailer that I looked at and did the review on, that it seemed like some characters aren't going to make it to the next one. This happens, that happens. So I didn't go into this completely blind, and I kind of knew some things from the Dune Part 2 trailer and reviews. So, Timothée Chalamet's character, very cool, fleshed him out. He has all these powers. So it turns out his mother, excuse me too if I'm getting this wrong. If there's anything I'm getting wrong, or you just want to make fun of me for not knowing all this lore and coming into this video just kind of shooting the shit, let me know down below. Timothée Chalamet's character, cool. He has like dual powers in a way. Like his mother was supposed to give birth to a girl, but then she ended up giving birth to him, and he was trained in like the father's way, but the mother did something. It's a little confusing. I watched the video about kind of breaking it down, but there's still some things I need to check myself on and understand. Zendaya's character I thought would be in the movie more. I mean, she was teased throughout the movie. I think, in my opinion, the story, the lore to this, the story was that this wasn't just a traditional, first act, second act, third act type of movie. While it did have those elements, it felt like the first act was the first movie, the second act will be Dune Part 2, and then there's going to be a third Dune movie, Dune Part 3. I have no idea. I could be wrong. I don't know any of the plans for Dune. I don't know if it's meant to be a trilogy. I don't know if it's meant to be 5 movies, 10 movies. I have no idea. But it seems like the first one is setting up for other movies. It was like a Game of Thrones type of thing where like the first season just sets up so much, and the first movie here sets up so much. So Timothy's character is cool. Another character I really like, Oscar Isaac's character. I had no idea Oscar Isaac had such a big role in this and was also Paul's dad. I wasn't too attached to him like I felt I was more attached to Jason Momoa's character. And the reason I bring those two up is because they're two characters that, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Dune Part 1, I'll give you a second to click off, but I feel like you should have seen it by now. And look who's talking. I saw it, okay? I felt like Oscar Isaac's death wasn't as fleshed out and sacrificial as Jason Momoa's death. Don't get me wrong, they're very sacrificial, but I think they just did Jason Momoa's death so much better. I like Jason Momoa's character more. I felt more attached to him just because, I think I tend to attract to more comedic characters. I also got to point out Oscar Isaac's beard in the movie was absolutely fire, but Jason Momoa's death scene was awesome. I liked Oscar Isaac's death scene too, just not as much as Jason Momoa's. I figured that they weren't going to be in Dune Part 2 because in the trailer for Dune Part 2, I didn't see them once, so I figured one of them, if not both of them, were out of it. So the characters were interesting. Javier Bardem's character, cool. I feel like he's a rogue kind of guy, which is cool. I'm looking at the cast list right now. Dave Bautista's character, he was all right. Cool villain. Didn't really have much to say. Josh Brolin, all I heard was Thanos when he was on screen. I mean, come on now. Come on now, you know what I'm saying? The villain's all right. He was all right. I feel like he wasn't in the movie that much, but I felt like it was teasing him for more, so I'm cool with it. If you didn't know, Oscar Isaac's character, I think he gets incapacitated and betrayed by, forgive me, I don't know the other character's name. Was it Dr. Wellington? It looks like Dr. Wellington was it. Turns out the villain was holding his wife hostage pretty much, so he made a deal to bring Oscar Isaac's character to him, ends up getting double-crossed and killed. Oscar Isaac, he gives like a tooth to bite down on to expose poison to everybody. So it ends up killing everybody in the room, but the villain does survive. That's his death. Cool death. But the characters were interesting. Timothée Chalamet, awesome job portraying his character. Zendaya, I would love to see more in Dune Part 2, which I obviously think we're going to see more of her in Part 2 now that the plot kind of has led Timothy's character Paul to Zendaya's group. I don't really know. Are they a house? Are they a tribe? What really is the group? The plot, I'm going to go how I kind of understand the plot. The plot, Timothy has these powers. He can kind of see into the future. He foresees seeing this girl, which is Zendaya. He sees Jason Momoa's death. He sees tons of different things, and eventually most of them or some things come true, but then there's a big spice thing going on, and the spice is a big thing that I think gives like some certain powers or something like that. The villain of the movie does what he does to Oscar Isaac's character and then starts a whole war with that house and ends up winning. Paul and Jessica end up escaping and joining those tribes with Zendaya, and they get away. That's kind of how that's just a really, really quick way to explain the plot. I could be completely wrong. I could have interpreted this completely wrong. Let me know if I am interpreting this completely wrong, and if you could kind of give me like a cliff notes of what really the plot was. It was a little confusing. I mean, it wasn't like impossible to follow, but there were some things where I was like, okay, this makes sense. And then later on, I'm like, okay, I thought this made sense, but now this is happening, so maybe this happens. Like, kind of like, I didn't understand what the armor they had, like the force field, when it turns red, that it's not that you die, like that you lost, but it's an incoming threat that could be fatal, and it gives you a second to almost stop it, and then it hits you. So it's a cool concept. The visuals in this movie, fantastic. It felt so grand. It felt huge. The battles felt huge. It looks like they turned the lights on during the battles, even when they were at night. The explosions were sick. Everything was pretty sick. So I'll give it that. The fight scenes were cool. Jason Momoa has a lot of fight scenes. Timothy's character, Paul, has a lot of training that ends up paying off in the end. There's a lot of things that he goes throughout the movie that end up paying off at the end at the right times, like when him and his mother are in the ship and he's trying to use his powers and ends up using his powers to save his mother. That was pretty cool. So a lot of that, and then when he meets Zendaya, it comes kind of full circle that he was having dreams of this girl, and when Jason Momoa's character dies, he said to Jason Momoa, "I see you dying," and then eventually it happens. So he could kind of see into the future, kind of like Anakin could do in Revenge of the Sith. Star-studded cast. Star-studded cast. I mean, a lot of A-listers, which is cool to say. My thoughts on the movie? What I didn't like about the movie? A little hard to follow, like I said. That was my only complaint, but it's a huge complaint. It's not easy like it's spelled out for you. It makes you think a little bit, which could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing, depending on how invested you want to get into this movie and into this franchise. You know, do you want to think that much? Do you want to explore the lore? Do you want to read the books or anything like that? So, you know, for somebody as a newcomer like me who has no idea what the movies are about, it's a little frightening, but you know, you could say that about Marvel. You could say that about The Boys. You could say about DC. You could say about Star Wars, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings. Anything. Anything is really scary when you're just jumping into it. I would give the movie like a 7.5 out of 10. That's what I said in my last video when I was recording this. A 7.5 out of 10 I feel like is fair. It sets up a lot to come, which is great. Do I want to see more? Of course. Which is, I think, essential for movies that leaves you satisfied but wants you to see more. So I'm excited as hell for part 2. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Just ships were cool as hell. Like that one ship, I don't know any of the names of the ships. Let me know what they are. The one that could like flap its wings like a bird, like a fly, crazy as hell. The Death Star, you know, I'm gonna call it the Death Star. It looked like the Death Star. I'm gonna call it the Death Star. I don't want to keep repeating myself, but a 7.5 I feel like is fair. That's about a 75% if you were to do it out of 100. 75% is fair. It got more higher reviews on the first one, but I guess I'm a little harsher, or maybe I don't know. I'm not shitting on the franchise or the movie. I'm more excited than not excited to see part 2. I feel like it's going in a great direction. And I'm excited that I was able to sit down and watch it and be entertained. And I could say more good things than bad things. Like as you could see through the video, I was, you know, going through the good things more than the bad things. So that's kind of my quick review. I finally saw Dune Part 1 and I enjoyed it. Leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you thought about Dune Part 1. Let me know if you're going to see Dune Part 2. And I'll see you all in the next one. Have an incredible day.